waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for?
What am I waiting for? What am I waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Fuck you!
Oh, oh my God.
Every morning when I wake up, one of the first things I think about is, what am I going to watch today? Am I going to mindlessly scroll and watch the latest uploads from my favorite YouTube channels? Am I going to finally finish What We Do in the Shadows after tries and tries of restarting? This is not at all a dig on the show. I love it so much. I'm just a person who struggles with committing to new shows. Most likely, you'll catch me on my umpteenth rewatch of some of my favorite shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Disastrous Life of Psyche K, or the bold, the beautiful, arcane League of Legends. I thoroughly enjoy shows with long seasons, vast amounts of world building, and in-depth character development. So as a die-hard lover of animation, I've been kind of noticing a pattern when it comes to character design that I feel like we need to talk about one-on-one. What's up? My name is Indigo, and I am a 25-year-old artist from Chicago who loves all things animation, anime, design, gaming, music, internet, pop culture, etc., etc. So when I was thinking about what video I wanted to make to kick off my YouTube channel career, I wanted to pick a topic that I feel like would represent the standard of what y'all can expect from me when consuming my content. Something that I'm really passionate about, something that's really been, on my mind for however long. And you want to know what that thing is? You want to know what's really been grinding my gears for the past couple of however long I've been watching animated shows? Racial ambiguity in animation. And specifically, characters whose designs don't lead you on to know exactly who or what they are unless you've at least watched the show or are part of the show's fandom. Quick disclaimer, I'm only going to be talking about American animation in this video. I have my own thoughts on racial representation when it comes to Japanese anime, but that would need to be for a whole separate video. And I also don't want to use this video to bash on these shows' creators or their artists. As an artist myself, I understand that it takes years and years to put out content of the quality that we receive today. And lastly, I'm also not using this video to discredit the experiences of mixed people or racially ambiguous people in their own way. I'm not mixed, so I can't speak on that experience. And with that being said, I will be talking primarily from a Black ass perspective. Sorry for the bangs. Now, just to start off on a high note, I want to talk about how I fully adore the massive strides we've made in racial diversity when it comes to animation just in the past 15 years. I remember growing up as a little Black girl in the early 2000s, really only seeing myself in a handful of animated characters. Some examples were Susie from Rugrats, Bumblebee in Teen Titans, Storm from X-Men, and Alex from Totally Spies, who wasn't even Black. She was just one of the only melanated characters in the show from what I could remember. So after leaving my patronage of the big three children's entertainment channels, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, and Disney Channel, I remember looking back and being excited to see the amount of diversity in the shows that kids younger than me were about to be growing up watching. I think we can all agree that Garnet from Steven Universe, which dropped in 2013, was one of the first Black femme characters to really take over the animation fandom of our generation. To see such love for a character that not only was unapologetically that bitch, but also unambiguously designed to look Black was amazing. It was amazing. And I remember running to watch the show like 50 times when I finally got into it. Nowadays, we have shows like Craig of the Creek, Doc McStuffins, Amphibia, She-Ra and the Princess of Power, and Dead End Paranormal Park. All of these shows hold a certain amount of intention behind inclusivity, as well as a desire for their audiences to feel seen in one way or another. So you can only imagine my confusion when the well-renowned show Adventure Time had a Black character and I saw this? Question mark? To reel back into the main topic of this video, I'll be referencing 3 specific characters from 3 animated shows. Marceline from Cartoon Network's Adventure Time, Luz from Disney Channel's The Owl House, and SOKKA and AANG from Nickelodeon's The Legend of Korra. I've watched and rewatched these shows and their spin-offs to a various amount of degrees, so I feel like I have a strong foundation to talk about this topic. But if you have any of your own thoughts, or if I get anything wrong and you want to elaborate on why, I'm happy to talk about it in the comments. I want my YouTube community to be one of discussion and of collaboration and of education. But with that being said, if I see any isms in my comments, you will get your shit rocked. Okay. Let's get into the video. Okay, hear me out. I know we all know that Marceline is canonically Black. I know that we have all seen Marshallese redesign in Fiona and Cake. And I know, we all know, or may not know, that the original creators of Adventure Time did not intend for Marceline to be as much of an involved character in the show as she ended up being by the end of it. However, I think we can all agree that the internet was shook when they found out that Marceline was half Black. In November of 2015, Cartoon Network dropped Stakes, the first of many Adventure Time miniseries that center the journeys of specific characters. Stakes follows Marceline and her coming-of-age story, growing from child victim of apocalypse to our beloved vampire queen. In part 2 of the series, titled Everything Stays, we watch a new scene from Marceline's childhood post-mushroom bomb. Yet this time, her companion is not the mentally and emotionally unstable Simon Petrikov, but Marceline's mother, who sings the famed song that the episode is titled after. At this point in the show, we've already met Marceline's soul-sucking demon dad, Hunson Abadir, and by the end of Stakes, we learn that her pale skin and pointy ears come from him, not from being a vampire. When we place Marceline next to her mom, it kind of begs the question of, where's the rest?
Oh no, where's the rest of it?
You know, maybe Marceline's mom's hair is straight for a reason that we just don't know, okay? Because let me tell you that you would never find one of us looking busted in the middle of an apocalypse, okay? Her hair stays pressed, might be a perm that she made up a recipe for, might even be a wig that we don't even know about. Who knows? But y'all get what I mean. Like I said before, the internet was buzzing when Everything Stays dropped on Cartoon Network. I even found this hilarious thread from 2015 on the website Lipstick Alley, and it's just a bunch of Black folks hashing out her genes and whether or not they claim her and her mom. I'll drop the link in the description in case you want a little bit of a laugh. However, even more recently, but before the release of Fiona and Cake, people online were still up in arms about denying Marceline's Blackness, either due to her mom's straight hair design or for morons just needing a reason to be racist. Anyway, I feel like I can't bring up Marceline's racial design without bringing up her voice actress Olivia Olson, who is mixed with Afro-Jamaican descent through her father. I found this tweet she reposted in 2019 asking fans when they found out Marceline was half Black, and the comments were still mixed on whether they knew or not, almost 4 years after Stakes had aired. Which is insane. Now, I also want to quickly address Marshallese redesign in HBO's Fiona and Cake. In case you haven't watched the series yet, which might not be many of you at all, I'll give a quick plot summary for you. HBO Max's Fiona and Cake stars Ice King's gender-bent fanfic cast, yet this time we are set in a very modern and realistic environment, which is very different from what we saw in the original show. After learning that they are in fact real people living in a world placed in the head of Simon Petrikov / the Ice King by Prismo the Wishmaster, Fiona, Cake, and Simon Petrikov jump from universe to universe, trying to find the power to restore their magical world. Donald Glover fortunately reprised his role as Marshall Lee, which I'm so glad for because his voice and personality are just so perfect for the character. Yet something this time, something was a little bit different concerning his character design, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
Who's the man? You're the man. Strong, healthy, black man. Huh? Dun dun dun, bum up, dun dun. Time to celebrate.
He looks black as fuck. And I love it. I love it. I love it. Even Hudson Abadir's gender-bent mom character has a little bit of melanin in her, and I love it. I already knew Marceline was not getting a character redesign from the promo and the trailers that I saw, but that doesn't mean I'm not curious for the reason not to. And I don't want to jump to say it's for the sake of keeping the original design of a beloved character and appeasing fans, because the team in charge of Marshall Lee's redesign already did this, while still paying homage to his original design in Adventure Time in-universe when the characters finally visit Prismo and learn their true identity. Of course, you want to keep continuity with the original show, but now I have the question. Does being a demon make your hair straight? All in all, I thoroughly love Marceline, and I love how her character has brought more Black women and young girls to feel welcome in the Adventure Time fandom. One of the most popular Marceline cosplayers is in fact a Black woman, whose name is Felicia D on TikTok. Plus, the abundance of fan art I've seen since the release of Fiona and Cake that give Marceline a kinkier hair texture is just... I love it. Who knows? Confirmation for season 2 of Fiona and Cake came out not too long ago, so maybe this time we'll get an alternate universe version of Marceline that looks a bit more, you know, nigga-fied, if you get what I'm saying. Okay, let's move on to the next character. Before we continue with the rest of the video, I just want to give a shout out to the private Facebook group I'm in called the Blurred Girls Club. When I was working on my script, I posted a question asking if anyone could share their characters that they thought could relate to today's topic. And I had a very, very nice time going through the comments to see other people's perspectives and to receive a lot of love. I just love y'all. Kisses. I also want to give a shout out to you, the viewer. This is my first YouTube upload, so I'm grateful for anyone who makes the time to get this far in the video and watch my content. Subscribe if you'd like to stay connected and want to see more of my content and have input on the future videos that I make on this channel. When looking at Luz, a canon quote-unquote Afro-Latina human in the universe of the Owl House, I can't say that I'm confident that non-fans would look at her character design and assume that there's any Afro-ness in her genes at all. People who have already watched the show are already familiar with how Luz's mother, Camila, looks, but in doing my research for this video, I couldn't really remember if we had seen her dad directly in any of the episodes. Luz's father passed away from an illness when Luz was a little girl, leaving her behind a copy of The Good Witch Azora, the book that would propel Luz's motives for the rest of the series. The entire time that I watched The Owl House, I always assumed that her father was the parent who had Black ancestry. However, when I pulled up the Owl House wiki page, his description reads as follows. Manny was a man of Latino descent with dark brown hair, a beard, brown eyes, and olive skin. He had a lean build and was hairy on his arms and legs. Again, no Afro in his description or in his looks. Interestingly enough, however, the wiki does state that Luz's mom is Dominican, with her description saying, Camila, similar to Luz, is a Dominican-American woman with tan skin and a medium body frame and brown eyes, as well as brown eyebrows. Even with this new knowledge of Camila and her ethnicity, we still need to acknowledge the historical context and discourse surrounding the Dominican identity and Blackness, colonialism, colorism, and more. The website Dominican Abroad, a blog and media company, has a phenomenal breakdown of these concepts that I'll be linking in the description below for you to read. When I don't have the knowledge to speak on a topic, I will always reference a page or platform that does, especially if that platform hails from the community that I'm talking about. All of this to say, there are a lot of nuances when it comes to racial identity versus racial perception that I don't expect a kid's cartoon to really get into. However, when there are Black Dominicans in the real world who refuse to claim said Blackness, whether that be through a desire to approximate closer to whiteness or wanting to avoid struggles with systemic discrimination, as well as the fact that a majority of the Dominican population is of mixed ancestry, boxing down Camila's identity to just quote-unquote Dominican is definitely an interesting choice. Like I said, I don't expect a kids' cartoon to cover such grand topics, but what I do expect is that if you're going to label a character as Afro-blank, then you need to give them some distinguishing features in their character design, even if you need to pull inspiration from the character's own voice actor. Luz is voiced by Sarah Nicole Robles, a Latina American, and she has much curlier hair than Luz. I even thought Anne Boone Choi, who's a little Thai girl in Amphibia, was a Black girl before I watched the show. I just want to read some comments I found on TikTok from a video by Judgment Day Fangirl as they redesigned Luz to look more like her voice actress. She looks Latina, of course, anyone can tell that, but Afro-Latinos are Black Latinos. When I first started watching the show, I had no idea she was Black. Anne Boone Choi outfroed her, and she's not even Black. I just recently wrote a fic where Luz had curly hair because the show and fandom rarely ever acknowledge the Afro in her Afro-Latina. Yeah, Luz is supposed to be Afro-Latino, but as an Afro-Latino myself, I never considered her proper rep for us. Her features don't at all show her Afro. I have no idea if this is true or not, but apparently Luz is supposed to be Afro-Latina instead of just Latina. There's no way I would have been able to tell that she was that because of her design. I love the Owl House deeply, but they messed Luz up so badly and it needs to be better. I don't know why the creators were so hesitant to give Luz unambiguous Afro features considering the material we've gone over. And what's more is that we've already witnessed the Owl House team design an unambiguously Black character in their main cast, Gus Porter. In the ending montage of the series finale episode, Watching and Dreaming, we see that Gus has grown up from a young dark-skinned boy with a chunky drop fade to a young man with chunky high-top locks. Not even just a bigger afro or braids, but locks. Locks with gold hair cuffs in them. Like, are you telling me that there's a beauty supply in the boiling aisles? Amazing. Quick headcanon, I could fully see Gus listening to Chief Keef and shaking his dreads in his room. That's just my little handcanon. That's just me. I will say, though, that I very much loved Luz's Titan form design in the series finale. Her hair is much more curly and voluminous, and if it was up to me, this would be her jumping point design for the show. Sans glowing eyes and sharp teeth, of course. Afro-Latina women come in a vast range of skin tones, hair textures, and facial features. And while yes, there are many Afro-Latina women who look like Tessa Thompson, there are also many others who look like Yaya DaCosta and Emma Yahtzee Corinaldi, for example. Those young girls deserve representation too. Alright, on to our last character breakdown, and this time we are covering our favorite dynamic duo. If you're anything like me, Avatar: The Last Airbender is your favorite, if not your #1 favorite animated show. I remember growing up in 4th grade, watching the show as it aired on Nickelodeon, and making sure that our Comcast DVR recorded the finale episodes. One fact about me is that I'm autistic, and one of my favorite stims is to repeat and replay sounds that are very satisfying to me, whether that be music or in a movie or in a TV show. So imagine little me glued to the TV, just replaying the scene of Aang sending down his elemental spike on Ozai, just because the roar that he made was just hype.
What is that?
That's my mimicking of what he was doing. As you can imagine, there was a curious and cautious and bittersweet air as fans awaited the series sequel, The Legend of Korra, in 2012. I personally didn't watch the show until years later in college, but I do remember growing up and one of my oldest siblings just raving about how much more mature and developed the new series was. And I was curious about, very important questions. What was Aang gonna be like as an Avatar mentor? What was this new Avatar gonna be like? Were we gonna get moments with the old gang? And how were they gonna look as adults? I was open to and prepared for anything. What I was not prepared for was for them to be white.
I am disgusted.
I remember being shocked and honestly a little bit disgusted when I first saw adult Aang and Sokka's designs in the season 1 episode Out of the Past. In this episode, when Avatar Korra is captured and tortured by a group of equalists led by the season's antagonist Amon, she receives flashbacks that lead her to the villain's true identity, as well as our first moments with the adult gang. Minus Katara, we see her several times throughout the show at this point, and I have no critiques. I think she looks great. The gang is included in a trial persecuting a new character named Yakone, Amon's father, who... I'm sorry, while I'm talking about The Legend of Korra, I need to get on this man Yakone, because what the fuck? First off, I know that the flashback has a super pale sepia filter, and I know that Yakone is a waterbender, but I don't know. How did the world let Brian and Michael get away with a race change? Yakone, to escape accountability for his crimes, got facial reconstruction surgery, ran away to the Northern Water Tribe, impregnated an innocent woman, and raised his 2 somehow darker kids to be bloodbending killing machines. Honey, if that's not textbook colonization and indoctrination, then I don't know what the fuck is.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Anyway, during that trial scene is when we get our first look at adult Aang and adult Sokka, and they were not at all what I was expecting, especially considering the cultural inspiration that was taken to design these characters. Creators Brian Konietzko and Michael Dante DiMartino are known to have done extensive research in East and South Asian cultures when building the worlds of Avatar: The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. The water tribes being primarily based on Arctic cultures like the Inuit and Yupik, the Earth Kingdom inspired by China across different dynasties, the Fire Nation a combination of East, South, and Southeast Asia, notably borrowing influences from Imperial Japan, and finally, the air nomads being heavily influenced by Tibetan and Bhutanese culture. One of my favorite things that I found when doing research for this section of this video was this old Reddit thread from about 2015 maybe. That's this person posting about how they were unable to see Aang, Suki, and Ty Lee as anything but white. And the comments are just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What are you talking about? This is a show that is heavily inspired by Asian culture. What do you mean you think that these characters are white? Fans and non-fans alike have commended the show's vast world building and character development. So how these Tibetan and Inuit-inspired children grew to have such Eurocentric features in adulthood fails to make sense for me. And I'm not the only one. There have been a few artists online who took it upon themselves to redesign Aang and Sokka's facial features to better reflect their cultural inspirations. On December 9th, 2019, user Sabretooth Walrus posted these illustrations on Tumblr, saying, quote, "It's not perfect, but they look a little bit more like themselves when they don't have white people noses." Others online joined in to share their thoughts on the two men's original designs, like user Canadia413 posting their own Sokka edits. Sabretooth Walrus even shared this image claiming that Aang's adult face was inspired by Michael DiMartino's, which I have yet to verify, but would be insane if that was true. I personally always really liked Zahir's facial design, who's the primary antagonist in season 3 of Korra. I always saw him as what it would look like if an air nomad was jacked, you know? And Sabretooth Walrus's edits kind of prove that the original team's design efforts could have gone a little bit further when it comes to our beloved sharing a single brain cell dynamic duo. We have yet to learn exactly how and why Sokka died, but we do know that it was when Korra was a young child, helping to protect her from attacks from the Red Lotus. We do know that Aang died at the biological age of 66, and it's theorized that Sokka passed between his 70s and 80s. So what was the reason then for Sokka to grow up looking like this wrinkled, distressed, white-passing older man at his age, when his father Hakoda looked like this at the same age? Justice for hot adult Sokka. So now that you've reached this point in the video, you're probably asking, Indigo, what do you expect these creators to do? Do you want them to redesign, reanimate, and republish their shows to appease the masses? Do you want them to draw stereotypical ass features for the sake of clarity? No, that is not what I want. In fact, keeping these old designs around help artists like myself have reference to build off of, to see what, didn't quite work and build off of it for the future in our own designs. But most importantly, I feel like the easiest way to get around racial ambiguity in character design is intention and research. Or at least making sure that the community you're trying to portray in your show has members who are sat at the table, especially when, for example, it comes to properly styling textured and black natural hair on an animated character. The account Luamp made an awesome video about this specific topic over on their channel that I highly recommend that you go watch.
This might not be the most relevant, but it's pretty annoying when the life simulation with its main appeal arguably being customization makes little to no efforts to actively include different skin tones and hair types within the base game. And this wouldn't be as bad if this turnaround happened within a short amount of time, but it didn't. For context, The Sims 4 came out in 2014, so it took EA upwards to 6 years to start making some of these changes.
I don't think that I have to reiterate why quality representation is important when it comes to the media we consume. Not only for viewers who directly relate to the characters and identify to the characters on their screen, but also for non-identifying viewers to see what's possible outside of their own bubble. Even with Marceline being known as Black for almost 10 whole years now, Black punk and goth girls were going crazy at the release of Henry Selick and Jordan Peele's stop-motion film Wendell and Wild in 2022. Henry Selick really said, "Tim Burton, I ain't playing with you no more," and created a stop-motion spooky film starring a dark-skinned punk rock character who is also an amazing ally. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse also portrayed great examples of interactions within Blackness without making a character scream their race to the heavens. The subtleties of Miles's socio-political dynamics with Hobie Brown and Margot Kess are often missed by movies' non-Black audiences. When Miles is quite literally about to be oppressed by the Spider Society, it was these two who made no hesitation to stop him, who only needed to make silent eye contact to speak volumes over the storm. If you've ever been one of the few Black people in a room and you've had to, give the look to somebody across the room, then you know exactly what these scenes were talking about. That is what I call intention. And when you're working with a medium such as animation, where practically anything is possible, I don't really see what the excuse is anymore. And I need to see better. We need to see better. I loved doing my research for this video and seeing old posts and threads from fandoms, especially since I tend to watch these shows a little ways after they've already aired on TV. Just to reiterate, I didn't make this video to drag on these shows or the creators, but to highlight that, despite the strides that we've made in racial diversity, there has been some hiccups along the way in animation. I don't like blackness being sprinkled on, as an afterthought, or placed in, snuck in for redundant layers in a character that don't even really get explored in the show. And I especially don't like seeing characters get whitewashed by their fans or their own creators. If you're going to canonize a character as black, brown, Asian, indigenous, a person of color in general, then you need to full send it. But that doesn't mean pull out the most stereotypical mannerisms and attitudes and facial features and hairstyles out of the bag, because there are so many little mannerisms and nuances that can speak volumes to a character's identity. One example could be a character's hair shrinking up when it gets wet from water, or that character having a moment of solidarity with another character from the same background. Or be loud as hell about it, that's fine with me, okay? I don't care. With that being said, I'm going to close out this video recommending the animated anthology series Kazazimoto. If you're anything like me, you'll love this show because you're a lover of all things black and all things animation and sci-fi. And I'm also going to recommend the video game Season, if you want a short and sweet cozy video game featuring a black woman and her bike. I didn't see enough people talk about these two when they came out, and I need more of y'all to get on it. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you like what I had to say, or if I got something wrong and you'd like to talk about it. I'd love to see people go as far and recommend topics for my future videos. And with that, I'll see you in the next one-on-one.